Cheating husband comes out as gay and then tries to steal my baby. I, 27F, have been with my boyfriend Mike, fake name, also 27, since our junior year in HS. We were supposed to celebrate our 10-year anniversary 6 months ago, but since then my entire life has fallen apart. The night of our anniversary, we were supposed to meet at the restaurant where we had our first real date forever ago. This was hard to plan as we now live 2 hours away from the town we grew up in, and we both have crazy work schedules. The day of, he tells me he has a special surprise for me and to go out there on my own and visit my family, and he'll meet me at the restaurant at our set time. I want to say we both agreed to never get married, so I knew a proposal wasn't on the table as my family, and I'm sure most of you are thinking. Anyways, I was excited about this as I had my own exciting news at the time. I had just found out I was pregnant and planned to tell my boyfriend that night. I visited with my family and told my mother and brother I was expecting, but not to tell Mike because I was going to tell him that evening. We were all so excited. I get to the restaurant on time, and I'm wearing a dress I bought just for the occasion. I sit there for an hour before leaving. At first I thought he was running late with the surprise, and then I started to become worried and he wasn't answering his texts, so I decided to head home and see if everything was okay. When I returned home, everything of his was gone. His clothes, his posters, his portions of everything, except the furniture and his car. My name is on the title because he has bad credit. On our bed is pages and pages handwritten by him. I'll spare you the details, but apparently, his childhood best friend, who I'll call Carl, started renting our furnished basement a few months prior. And it was alright. Carl was never a burden, always helpful with chores and cooking, and I never had a reason to not want him in my home. As far as I was concerned, he was family, and he said the feeling was mutual. The letter read that Mike and Carl were in love and running away together to escape their bigoted families, and because Mike couldn't live this lie anymore. As much as I hate it, I respect it. I have many gay friends and know how hard it is for many. I mean, watch Why Women Kill and pay close attention to the 1980s couple. Naturally, I was devastated, but knew there wasn't much I could do other than allow myself to mourn my partner's and I's relationship, because for me, I was in love. Knowing that it wasn't my fault, it was just something I couldn't control, helped a little. My family called many times that night to see how the dinner went because they wanted to know how he reacted to the news of me being pregnant, and they don't understand our no marriage deal, and were always hoping he'd buck up, but I ignored all calls. The next morning, I was woke up by pounding on the door, and to my shock, it was Mike and Carl. I allowed them inside, asked if they'd forgotten any of their things, and asked if there was anything we split they'd like to talk about taking, as there were a few things around I figured should go to them, such as of the furniture sets from the living room or the basement where Carl was previously staying, as I imagined they were in a new apartment and needed these things. What happened next shocked me. Mike cut me off with a hand up and asked how far along I was. I asked who told him, and he said it doesn't matter how he knows, just that he knows, and that he wants to be a part of the child's life. I said of course I planned on involving him, as it was his child too after all. He then stated that he and Carl wanted to stay in the basement apartment until I gave birth, and at which point he and Carl would be moving upstairs, and I could have the basement until I found a better place. I asked why in his right mind I should give them my home, and they said so that they could raise their baby together without his past there to ruin it. I laughed out loud, which really pissed him off. He said I know they can't have kids together, and that the least I could do for stealing the last 10 years of his life was to give him his baby, since I could always just go have another one. I was appalled by this and said I sympathize that they can't have their own children together, but that gives him no right to take mine from me. And that I could say he stole the last 10 years of my life too, but I actually loved and planned a future with him. Meanwhile, all he did was lie when he could have left amicably sooner and saved us both the trouble. I didn't force him to do anything, and he's out of his mind for thinking I owe him my child. Carl hadn't said anything until the end, where he told Mike I was right and dragged him out. Carl sent me an apology later that night. Radio silence for a week, and I thought it was over until my first OBGYN appointment, where I was told that I had had a chemical pregnancy and the egg never fully attached, so I was no longer pregnant. This hurt, but was honestly a relief, because now I wouldn't have to do custody with my ex, who I never wanted to see again. I told only my mother and brother. Mike showed up same day screaming and pounding on the door, insisting I aborted the child just so he couldn't have it. At one point he tried kicking down the door, so I called Carl to come get him. Surprisingly, Carl showed up with the police and had Mike arrested. Carl stayed until after they all left, to which point we spoke through the door. He said he's sorry for everything he's done to me, and he's sorry I lost my baby. We ended up talking for a while before he said that Mike isn't the same man anymore, and he's very verbally and physically abusive lately, and uses the excuse that he can finally take his anger out properly since Carl is a man and can take it. He told me he got a restraining order pending, and I should get one too. That's the last time I heard from either of them. And now to the next story, story 2. For you to learn or be amused. My crazy story of being cheated on. Hi, I made a couple of posts about my current love life that I deleted. I was cheated on 10 years ago, and I wanted to vent a little and let it be a lesson so similar things won't happen to y'all. It's long, but maybe you can read a little every day as chapters, lol. You'll see I was very, very stupid, and I can see that as I type it all. Most of you will read it and think I was an actual idiot to let it all happen the way it happened. I was in love. I kind of thought that only happened to people that was weird and twisted. Maybe I thought that only proof of her fucking another dude was real cheating. I was also lost on money problems and my mother's sickness, and I guess at some point I was in some deep denial, and after that even just amused to see what would happen next, just waiting for a real reason to leave. Some of you might believe me because maybe you felt similar things. I married a girl I met when I was 14. She was 15. Through several years, she tried to be my girlfriend, and I wasn't quite sure, and we met from time to time to catch up. When I was 26, we met again, and I decided that I wanted to give it a try. We started dating. She was my very first girlfriend, and we married when I was 30. I loved her, and I was committed to the relationship. I never thought either of us could cheat. I was never jealous, and I always believed what she told me until 1. I worked at home, and she worked as social worker. She had a car. She used to come home at 11, and one day she got home like 4 hours later. She never called me, said her phone had no power and she got lost in traffic, and that was it. I don't remember she handling it like it was a big deal. I had been worried that she had been involved on some accident or something, that I was relieved when she got home. I wasn't a partygoer type, and she had expressed her wish to go out drinking and dancing. So I thought maybe she had gone to some bar with her work friends or something, and I thought that was the worst that could have happened. 2. The very next day, I'm sleeping at our bed, and she's on another room. Her cell phone vibrates, and I see a message that says, "Have a nice day," from Dr. Omar. When she enters the room, I tell her Dr. Omar said hi, and she starts telling me that he works with her, and that's where I start to worry, kind of. Facebook was starting to be popular, and I look him up, and when I see his picture, I think that if my wife cheated on me with him, she would be crazy. I even tell her, and she laughs, and we brush it off. 3. You will think I'm very, very stupid, but when this happened, I became worried, but I rather took it as a weird reason to play Sherlock Holmes, thinking I wouldn't really find anything. I installed a software to record what was typed on the house computer, I know, but I could only see what was typed, not where or if the other person replied. With the software, I find my wife has an email account I didn't know about, and she uses it to get chain emails from this guy. I access the account, but I only find jokes and lame, motivational messages forwarded to her. This was back when people forwarded PowerPoint files. The worst was a mail about women wearing kinky dresses, and the file asks, "What's your favorite?" He replied, "The nurse costume." Back then, cell phones didn't have so many security features as now, but they also didn't store so many messages or have social media on them. I get the DR's phone to see if he makes calls to the house or whatever. One night I decide to call him from my cell phone, just to, I dunno, wake him up and bother him. I say nothing. Next day, when my wife returns from work, she is angry and tells me I embarrassed her in front of many coworkers because the doctor said that someone called him late at night, and when he shows them the number, she sees it's mine. I actually thought that she could have just said nothing, right? But she says she told him all it was my number. She's very angry, but then I told her, "Oh, I called him because I saw you have an email account just to write to him." Then she changes her attitude completely and starts acting submissive. Later, I asked her in front of how many coworkers this happened, and she says, "He just told me. No one else was there." By now, you know how stupid I was. but I still just thought she had made that account to be rebellious. I couldn't believe she 0D-banged that dude or anything. Around this time, she crashed her car and had to wear a neck piece and stay home. I don't remember how I knew, but she called him one day I left the house. She said she called him to ask her about health issues regarding the accident. I told her, "You work with many other doctors and your mother is a nurse." I know. I started going to her work to pick her up at random times, and I ran into the doctor a couple of times. He seemed terrified of me, but still, I couldn't 0T believe there was something else to their relationship. 4. At her work, she had another young co-worker who I knew. Once she was on vacation, and the guy had an accident. She wanted to go to her job to give him some paperwork he needed, and I told her that it'd look weird to people since she wasn't her girlfriend or wife, and she had asked to be on vacation, and then she went running to her workplace to see that dude. The agreement we made was that I'd give him the paperwork, not at her job, but at a halfway point. When I got back home, she told me she told her mom about the situation and that her mom agreed with me that she shouldn't have gone herself. Regarding this dude, I never saw messages or anything. At some point, there was an office party that she told me only workers could attend, but later on she told me I could go with her. During that party, she danced a lot with that dude, and they were even kind of gone for some time when I was stuck with some talkative dude. I never thought much of it until other things happened. By now you must think I was an idiot. Well, I discovered she sent a picture of her boobs to yet another guy, this time a guy she knew from school. This time I confronted her. She did the thing where they ask you how much you know to know what to tell you. First, I just found the pic and told me it was for you. Until I told her I knew she sent I to some dude. Also, you must realize she was stupid too to keep using the same computer. This time we did argue, but it was around the time she crashed. I wanted to leave, but she grabbed me, and I didn't want to push her and injure her. So we ended up at the floor doing some pathetic thing where I wanted to leave and she didn't let me. When she trusted I'd stay and got away from me, I left. But I came back and somehow the routine made me stay. I still somehow thought she had just sent a picture, not actually banged a guy. That's where she gaslight me with, I0V, been feeling ignored. And foo CK, I even started trying to be more romantic and take her out more often. 6. During all this, I become more and more obsessed about seeing what's going on. I started showing by her job at unexpected times. I kept watching the computer register. I bought a digital recorder that I didn't 0T even use. 7. Once I thought I read some email where she told some dude from school she'd meet him. I even told her around those days, but she denied it. She didn't get mad or defensive, which made me doubt. 7. By that time, my main concern was that I wasn't making enough money. We were trying to have a baby. We were on treatment with one doctor, then another. That also messed with my mind. How could I be cheated with someone who anteed to have my baby? Once she came home with some flower arrangement, and she told me she won it on a raffle. The flowers didn't look a lot like something a lover would give as a gift, but I didn't believe the story. On the pot, I found a card that said, "For your desk," with the name of the flower shop. I called saying that a friend had been given a nice arrangement from their shop, and I wanted to know the model. I said they were sent to my wife's name. They told me that they did send them to her, but obviously when I asked if they know who sent them, they didn't tell me. When we were on fertility treatment, we changed doctor, from a female doctor to a male doctor friend of hers. We went to a building with many offices on it. The flower shop that sent her the flowers was on that building. 9. She told me that she'd take a thanatology course on Saturdays. She'd never been interested on improving her skills, so I thought that was a nice thing. I used to go with her before the class started. I don't remember having walked into the actual place where the class happened. I left her with the car and I went back home. She even suggested once that my dad could be interested on attending the class. He didn't want to. But now I think maybe she just said that to dupe me or something. When the course was near its end, I noticed she took more attention into her appearance. Once she even wore some corset thing that made her look slimer, which I found odd. My main problem these days is that I didn't have enough money for the rent, for the fertility treatment, and my dentist told me I'd have to get an expensive treatment, so I switched from freelancing to an office job, which made me unhappy at first. Her mom used to travel a lot with her retirement money, and sometimes she invited us, but I didn't feel like going sometimes because I didn't like her mom paying for things. I also thought that being a little apart would help us, so she traveled to some state. She came back, showed me pictures and stuff. Then, she said the thanatology course would have a celebration for its ending, but that it'd be on the very same place she had just visited with her mom. That was so unbelievable. I think at this moment, I just was waiting for some real proof to end it all. I even took her to the airport where no one else was. They'd meet her there, she said. I came back to the house and I was just depressed. I logged into her email, I know, again, and saw nothing. There was a moment where I thought maybe I was just being paranoid and that everything be all right. Then I hit refresh. I found messages to yet another dude, planning the trip. He lived there or something. She sent her money she took the time to take from her employment's account. I searched the house and found the receipt with his name. I searched the computer's file, and I found her speaking of having had sex with someone the week she traveled with her mom and sister. I texted her, say hi to dude's name. No reply. The next day she called me and sounded nervous, tried to ask me what I knew. I found that very maddening since she just asked to make a story up. When she saw I knew everything, she got mad and started saying, well, he does love me and will treat me better, and stuff like that. That was on Saturday. On Sunday, she called asking for forgiveness and stuff, but I didn't care anymore. I said I wanted to divorce and she couldn't make me change my mind. She said she'd go to the house on Monday when I was at the office to take her stuff out, and I think in this aspect having now an office job helped me. Maybe if I had to see her I would have changed my mind or fell into routine like the time before. She did take her stuff out and wasn't there when I got home. One day, she even made one of her girlfriends I knew call her, saying it was a friend from her job. Why would they call at an hour she was at work then? And I recognized her voice, but didn't say nothing. She talked about how nervous she was and that she had been with her in the trip, but I didn't believe it. I found the effort laughable. Weeks later, I met her at the divorce office and signed. Then we both went to have breakfast holding hands, WTF. She said that she agreed to the divorce because she thought it was my way of getting my anger out. She thought we would remarry later or something. I said goodbye. And one last story, story 3. It's all wrong but still doing it. It was the year 2019 when I met this guy online. At that time, I was still in college, while he was already a registered mechanical engineer. We quickly got along because we had many similarities, and he had graduated from the same university I was attending. We often talked, and he would always invite me to video call when he wasn't busy. He also frequently asked to meet up, but I always said no, because I had never met anyone I knew online in person. This went on for several months. One day, I was at our family condo. No one was living there, so I would go there when I wanted to be alone or to study. It was late afternoon, and I was hanging out on the roof deck when I received a message from him asking to meet up. I don't know why, but I agreed. We had sex that night, and it happened many times after that. We would meet up late at night just to hook up. But he's married, and I was in a relationship. His wife lives abroad, and he was looking for things. My boyfriend cheated on me. I found out that all my suspicions about him were true. I got depressed, and it affected my studies. I didn't feel anything for that guy. I just enjoyed his company. There was no stress, and I had someone to talk to about my problems, even if they were related to school and career. I think he felt the same way. Fast forward to 2024. I'm now working as a registered civil engineer while he lives abroad with his wife. But from time to time, every 3 to 4 months, he comes home, and we still see each other just like before. We didn't fall for each other. It's not about love or deeper emotions. We simply enjoy each other's company and satisfy each other's sexual desires. It's a connection based on mutual pleasure rather than affection. Even though I feel guilty, I know that our relationship is built on this understanding. The intimacy we share doesn't go beyond the physical, and while that brings a sense of satisfaction, it also leaves a lingering emptiness. Despite the feelings of regret, I'm aware that this is the reality of our situation.